Alright guys, what is up? Welcome back to Empyrion Galactic Survival with Lone Debater 7. So today we're going to be taking a break from the main experimental series and take a look at some of the templates that I have built. So one of the big things with the experimental update is CPU usage has drastically changed. If you're over the CPU usage, it'll slowly blow up the generators that are powering the craft, whether that's a capital vessel, hover vessel, or small vessel, doesn't really matter. So bottom line is, when you're building structures like this and trying to make templates, you want to make sure that they are within the CPU limits. So since the last episode of our main experimental playthrough, I went ahead and made a hover vehicle, small vehicle, and a capital vehicle, just so we have one of each of the three main transportation modes that we can build in our main series. I was reading because they updated experimental to phase 3. That's what we're playing now. That's why it's 12.3 instead of 12.2. But the update note said once they update to phase 4, all of the prior experimental saves are going to become corrupted. So basically what that means for us, our experimental playthrough is pretty much done. I mean, we still haven't built a capital vessel or anything like that, but I don't really want to take the time to do so, just because basically all of that progress is going to be lost when they update to experimental 4. So with that being said, these are going to be the three vehicles I plan to use when we restart the experimental playthrough once phase 4 drops. I plan to kind of play back through. Let me know in the comments down below if you want me to share all the content of kind of building our way back up through a hover vessel, small vessel, and then capital vessel in phase 4 experimental, or if you'd rather me just kind of pick up with a small vehicle and hover vehicle and kind of work towards the capital vessel where we left off in the current series. Let me know down below, and I'll consider it when I'm making the decision. But without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at some of these vehicles. So this first one here is my starting hover vehicle, Mark 1. So as you can see, it's basically like a queue with some thrusters on it and shit, so it doesn't look all that great. I did kind of build a little cockpit in here because the exposed ones are better. So we'll just power this bad mamma jamma up. So it goes 50 meters per second, so pretty fast. Its slow down speed is not as good because there's only one thruster compared to like 3, I want to say, or 2 going forward. But it's pretty fast. It's fairly maneuverable left and right as well. So I really like this hover vessel. The other benefits, obviously it's got a detector, so you can use it to go scout. It's got a harvester module, as well as ore and wood container controllers, so if you go up to a tree like that and harness it, we will get some wood, 9 logs, and it put it automatically inside of our storage on the vehicle. So not too bad. If we take a look at the stats, it does take 15mm bullet because there are 2 turrets, so 2 projectile turrets on this one to help keep you a little bit protected. I like this vehicle for a couple of reasons. One, it's got the harvester, which is helpful because you almost always need wood to make plant fibers, and then the 2 turrets on it kind of make it a dual purpose vehicle. You can definitely fly this up and try to take on some of the Xerax bases if you wanted to. I don't know how well it will perform, obviously. There's only 2 turrets, so if they're too high level, you'll probably just get wrecked and lose your shit. So I wouldn't suggest that if you're, way advanced or something, or the bases you're trying to attack are way advanced. I wouldn't use this. But for starting out, basic stuff, I mean, 2 projectile turrets DPS pretty well, so should work out fairly good. The other things to keep in mind with this one are it is a T1 CPU, so we're at 4673 out of 5000 here, so we're just under T1, but that's awesome because it means this is actually fairly inexpensive to build. You don't need to go find gold and get a T2 and unlock all that stuff. You should be able to build this pretty much from the get-go. I did build a couple of custom things so you can turn the turrets off and on if you want. I know they have them over here, I just wanted to do it myself. So yeah, this is the starting hover vessel I'll probably end up using from now on. It's seems to work pretty well. I'm hoping that they don't change like the CPU stuff when they go to phase 4, which I don't think they will, but either way. So holding space hovers this higher, so let's see how far off the ground we can go. 3 meters, that's actually pretty good. And then obviously if you hold C, it lowers you back down. So that is the hover vehicle that I designed. Definitely not a bad little ship, if I say so myself. I'm just going to go sleep in here real quick. That way, you know, we can keep going without it being dark and you guys can actually see. So inside the capital vehicle, I've got a bed, just for situations like this. Okay, we're going to do the capital vehicle last, so yeah, spoilers. Here you can kind of see the inside, but let's take a look at the small vehicle. So the small vehicle I've got is my fighter, Mark 1, rather. So built this one. It's a little bit more than just a cube. I tried to design, you know, shape it a little bit. All these little shutter doors basically hide thrusters, so if I turn it on like this, it actually looks kind of cool because you can see the thrusters firing through the shutters, so it kind of looks like the ship basically just has fire coming out of it. Anyway, so this ship, not bad. It is a fighting vehicle, so it's got rocket launchers and Gatling guns, 2 of each. Got your detector, of course, which you always want. So it goes up to 69 meters per second. Its acceleration curve isn't the best in the world, but its decel is awesome. Like, the thrusters pointing in all directions have the same amount, I think, except for top and bottom. So up down's a little bit slower than any other direction of travel. But what that does for you is it makes the ship a lot more maneuverable, and it slows down really fast. So when you stop, as opposed to, you know, taking a little bit of time. So that's nice. And then obviously you've got guns. That's pretty standard. You've got your rockets, also pretty standard. But I like this ship because it's small, it's fast, and I don't know, I think it looks okay. Let me know what you think down below. But let's take a look at the CPU. So this one is a T2 CPU, and the reason for that is because of the rocket launchers. It just barely puts it, or well, the weapons that I've got on here and the warp drive, because this does have a warp drive, puts it over T2. So I did build a second version of this, and basically I just gutted out the warp drive, and that actually makes it a T1. So what we can do is start with this version here, and then once we build a warp drive, if you break open these blocks here, that's where the warp drive goes. So like, this is where it would go right underneath that block. Just gonna put that back. But otherwise, it flies pretty much the same. We also removed the rockets on this one. But as you can see, it's a T1 5300 out of 6000. So I do have both versions here. So most likely what's going to happen when they push phase 4, I'm going to build this small vehicle first, just because it gets the job done and it's already prepared to close the warp drive. And then when I'm ready, I'll just throw the pentaxid tank and the warp drive inside, and that will upgrade it to this ship pretty much, with the exception of the rockets. So that's kind of the plan there. So we've got our hover vessel and our small vessel. So the main small vessel is a T2. I do have a T1 version, just in case, you know, you want to try to get a small vehicle set up before you have the resources to build T2 CPUs. Anyway, those are the first 2 vehicles I've designed thus far. I like them. I think they're going to be really helpful as far as getting into you know, vehicles right away when they push the update. So if we look at this T1 SV, I mean, it takes just over 36 minutes to build, not too bad, but 432 carbon, 288 copper, 213 silicon, and 150 iron. So pretty cheap, all things considered. On the hover vehicle, it's even cheaper, so almost 21 minutes, 278, 188, 159, and 108 on the resources required to build it. If you go straight to the T2, then you need a little bit of neodymium and titanium and cobalt, and that is because we have a warp drive on there and a pentaxid tank and the rocket launchers. But those are the first two vehicles I've got. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the capital vehicle, so let's get started on that. Alright guys, so let's take a look. This is our capital vehicle. So it's a little bit boxy, and I know that there's people that design these ships and they look amazing. I tried to make it a little bit less of a box by putting some of these slopes in and corners and stuff. So it's not completely a box, but it's pretty much a box. So pretty good size, kind of the way this one's designed. I mean, you've got your gravity generator, so when you go into space you can still walk, that's fine. But behind this basically has all of the goodies. So you've got your CPU extenders, fuel tanks, RCS, all that shit is in the back here. And same with the thrusters. So kind of what I did, if we take a look back here, I have my rear thrusters and my forward thrusters back here. So these two are the rear, right next to it are forward facing. So those are balanced. If we go up here, I've got this little brick on either side, and this contains our left-right thrusters as well as our up-down thrusters. So not too bad, they're all pretty well encased. I only used regular steel on this build, just because I know sometimes finding the titanium or sapphire that's required to build the hardened steel and combat steel can get a little pricey, and you maybe don't want to have to deal with that to build this. But the main goodies are inside, so there's a ventilator here and a ventilator over there. Between those two, this area is oxygenated as well as the cockpit area in the front. But I've got 2 hangar doors and 2 ramps, one on either side. That way I can bring my small vehicle in here. And in theory, I should be able to bring a hover vehicle up this ramp and land. I mean, it doesn't quite go all the way down to the ground. I tried using, because they do have, if you right-click on these blocks, it'll give you different lengths. So this is the one that's currently on there, the 3x3x1. I tried putting this 3x4x2, which is 1 block longer and should hit the ground. But when I attach it, basically what it does, as opposed to having this gray piece attached right up here, it puts it at the bottom of the block for some reason. And I know that I'm placing it in the right spot, like the reticle and everything before I place it shows it with the gray piece flush with this, kind of how this one's set up. But then when I actually place the block, it doesn't work. I don't know, it's probably a bug of some sort, but that's alright. Not the end of the world. I don't necessarily care. Because these really would only be used to put a hover vehicle on, so we should be able to figure that out. Like, if I take this hover, like, let's see if we can just get this in, I guess. That's the main thing, because the whole point of these capital vehicles is you want to be able to bring your small vehicle, and if you've got it, a hover vehicle with you, because it just makes life so much easier. You can fly this bad mama all around the galaxy, so to speak, and harvest resources with your smaller ships, so you don't actually have to go into the planet with your capital vessel, which costs a lot of fuel, by the way, so maybe isn't the best. So the ramp works, at least with this hover vehicle. You have to kind of fly up a little bit, but whatever, I can get it on there, so that's the main thing. So cool, that actually works. I would like to see that 3x4x2 ramp design fixed, just because it would be better if you didn't have to sit there and hold space for a little bit to try to fly your hover vehicle up. But that's fine. So the hover vehicle fits in there. I've tested this already. I know this ship fits, but I'll just show you. So this small vehicle will fit as well. Just trying to get it set up the right way, because it is a tight fit for this one, just because of the wings on the back. Make it kind of wide, but fly in here, and then there we go, it's attached. So cool, we've got our small vehicle inside. So kind of the way this works, I kind of textured the floor, so these vents are supposed to be the hangar bay, where you put all your ships and hover vehicles, whatever. And then I've got this blue like tiling for the regular floor. So this is your ammo controller. It's got 2 extensions on it. I've got a food processor and a fridge all hooked up, armor locker. Then over here, this is a storage container, and this is a storage container. And I've got 1 advanced constructor. If I put the container controllers like this, now they're set up, so 1 will be the input. I think it's this one on the right is the input, and then this is the output. I've got clone chamber, medic station, O2 station. That way, I mean, basically this is a pretty good base, all things considered. Like, you can do pretty much everything in here. There's a door that separates the cockpit from the rest of the ship. Inside here, I mean, this is the cockpit, pretty standard. You hit F, you fly in that. I've got a little bed off to the side. That way, if it turns night while I'm flying around or landed, whatever, I can just skip to day. But let's hop in and kind of fly this. So I don't really care to fly the capital vessels in first person. I like to go into third just so you don't crash into stuff. But let's just take a look. So I haven't flown it around too much on the planet. I basically flew it from orbit in so I could take a look and see. But it says it will go 60 meters per second, so that's not bad. If we try to head out into orbit, I mean, this actually does pretty good. If I do say so myself. You got to realize this is a pretty big ship since it's a capital vessel, but when you're designing these, you definitely want to be able to go in and out of orbit of the planets. Otherwise, you're kind of limiting your ability with what the ship can do. So, anyway, we are in orbit now, so 100 meters per second. I think that's pretty standard. I'm using the medium-sized thrusters is what I picked for the capital vessel. So, I don't know, whatever. So we're in orbit now. We'll hop back out. As you can see, if I turn off my jetpack, we have gravity. So that one gravity generator is enough in the back here to, you know, provide gravity for the whole vehicle. There's oxygen, obviously, because these guys are going, the little ventilators. And yeah, so not too bad. I'm just gonna toggle God mode. I'm in creative. That's how I build all these ships, is I just pop into creative and kind of go ham, because it seems to work better. So we've got our ship here. It kind of looks derp, but as you can see, there's 5 turrets on it, so they're all projectile turrets. I just left them as projectiles because, I mean, by the time you're building a capital vessel, you definitely can build projectile turrets, but not necessarily rocket turrets. You can always, you know, add a rocket turret or change these turrets out to what you want after you build the template. It doesn't matter. I just started with projectile turrets, so it's got some defenses on it. Let's just turn off God mode so we can walk. Okay. Cool. So that's kind of what this ship looks like. I mean, I tried to stylize it a little bit. It looks okay. I do like this, you know, cockpit enclosure. You can kind of walk around and see what's beneath you, and yeah, it's kind of cool. But let's take a look at the actual ship. So the only drawback with this one is it is a T3. I'm about 60,000 CPU or so over being able to use a T2. And, you know, I really want to have all the devices on this ship that I've got, so it's a T3. Not the best in the world, but you know what? It gets the job done. So that's why we've got it at a T3. As far as resource costs go, let's just pop in here. Capital vessel T3 is what I saved it as. So you're going to need just under 1,800 iron, 1,600 neodymium, 800 titanium, 800 cobalt, 500 carbon, 500 copper and silicon, 50 sathium, 4 large optometric bridges, and 1 wood plank. So the optometric bridges are going to be the tough part. Those require gold in order to build, and you need an advanced constructor. So getting a T3, and the reason why you need those is because there's 2 T3 CPU blocks on here, which is required to take it to the T3 level. So yeah, a little bit more expensive, but I mean, this capital vessel's pretty much geared up to handle anything. The only other pieces you'd maybe want to add is like some tool turrets or mining turrets or something like that if you wanted to be able to mine asteroids as well. But outside of that, I mean, this is a pretty well set up capital vessel. There's a little bit more space inside here. You could add another constructor on top or on this side, whatever. just so you could increase your production, but I like this capital vessel, not bad. So with that, guys, those are the 3 templates I've got. That way when they push phase 4 for the experimental, we'll be ready to go. If you liked them, be sure to like, comment, subscribe as always, and if you want me to share these on the Steam Workshop, be sure to leave a comment down below and let me know. With that, guys, this has been Lone Debater 7, checking out some templates in Empyrion Galactic Survival, and until next time, we will see ya.